Hello, this is Colin Dawson with Lockdown Movie Reviews, bringing to you here a great another movie. And I will have to say that this one I saw on YouTube, and the only reason why I went to see it was because I thought it seriously was coming out next year. I was so taken off, I was like, why did they release it here? And it was Matrix, the new Matrix movie. People are, in a way, wanting a really strong male character. And I've heard on YouTube, I've heard from like the other coworkers or people around there that it's like it didn't stay to the true thing. It didn't have anything to it. And while I do respect certain people's thoughts over how they thought things were going, I will be honest. This movie does not deserve the bad press that it got on YouTube. And for the other reviewers on YouTube, I'm sure I'll never meet you. We will have nothing but good times together so long as we don't talk about Matrix. And this movie is beautiful. This movie is great. This movie is just, it's a new level and a new twist. And it's like instead of being stuck in the internet and the phone system of the older times, it shows the machines have evolved and moved along. And while there's some peace between some of the machines and the programs, it really is very interesting that all of a sudden there's not this whole all encompassing situation. And it's like they've moved on to a new bad person who could be an antagonist in another situation of another installment. And they've came up with how psychologists and everything really do trap and trick people in under their own frailties and their jealousies of everything, and touches on a very core situation with mental health in this whole society, with how the providers of it can be the abusers of it and can actually be evil people. And while people really aren't as crazy as they are made out to be, it actually goes out and says, in a very bold statement, a bold statement of the feminine is just as strong in her own element as the man. And where it does have a lot of it come up that it is about getting to Trinity in this rather than getting to Neo. And one of the aspects that I will say here, the storyline of them being trapped in a newer form of technology, not the dial up system of internet and everything else, and this new technology coupled with psychology is keeping them in line. And there's this whole mystique about these two people that are supposedly going to get together and everything that, in a way, uses the hope of everything to keep the Matrix going, even though everyone in the Matrix has to keep them apart for their society to keep going. And it even brings in some of the newer situations off of zombie apocalypse movies, and where everything really is kind of brought up into a new situation. And I do have to say, Matrix is wonderful. It is over the top in a lot of it. And it shows how men can be entrapped by what defines them and everything, and breaking through that shell in a way. And it shows how people really do search for people for years. And it shows how people lost, separated, however it is. And with honestly coming out of the war, it does remind me a little bit about, missing in action people and the lengths people will go to find them. It's not said in that way, but it's like it's an underlying theme from the main theme of it. and reuniting people with people, people having false identities, um, everything else. There's a really cool part in the end of it because I had a friend named Tiffany, and she has 3 kids, and you know, everyone's like, "Oh, that was your perfect person to be with," and look, you lost out on everything. And I will have to say, nothing towards the Tiffany, but there is a moment at the end of it when they mention the name Tiffany that I just have to say I was in a full movie theater over where you could eat dinner for the movie theater and almost just busted out completely laughing. It was so spot on, perfect with it from my own personal perspective. And, I honestly, the reason why I haven't done this movie yet was because it was so personally just great for me. There are so many things in it that I would say instantly greatness, everything else. And to look at it objectively is probably the hardest film that I'll ever have to look at objectively. I think the cinematography was good. There was not one single bit of herky jerky moments where you thought that why did they film it from this scene all of a sudden? They lost this. Oh, you could tell something was different in the makeup. They brought in new technologies while still holding to the old. And I'll be honest, they said go out and paint some rainbows and everything else. And in a way, there was another moment of it because it's like the rainbows that they were going to be painting in the new universe or whatever it is that they were in, the new part of the Matrix. Um, it was a really interesting moment, and I heard from a couple of the people that I'm around that they were so angry that um, the rainbows would be utilized with straight people or a straight relationship, and that they couldn't believe how it abandoned the LGBTQ community and how Neo at the end of Matrix 3 was the culmination of gay unity and homosexual unity and marriage with Agent Mr. Smith, with how they've been pitted against each other to kill each other off and hurt the gay community. And I'm like, I'm glad you saw that from the artistic point of everything that was there uh, in it for your perspective off of seeing it from there. But at the same time, I was like, okay, um, his code was feeding off of Neo, and he was attached to Neo, and he was trying to suck the power of Neo off of him, and he wasn't able to do that, and Neo was able to go and rest and everything else before this new machine situation showed up that was from, advanced technology and was a separate machine city in their machine city war, civil war with each other. And, you know, I understand. I have that same thing. Listen to the Hoosier song, Take Me to Church, and everything else. And I mean, honestly, to me, I was like, it's about lovers, it's about this, it's about that, it's about people starving to death and, living in a home and not having anything and people coming after them and, the lost lover's dead and everything. And, you know, somebody asked me to describe it to them and they're like, you need to watch the music video. And I watched the music video. It's totally off with everything else and everything. In my perspective, it's like, I'm not going to say I have Asperger's, maybe everybody has an Asperger moment. I'm not really sure, but it seems like that's why the press that I've heard and the gossip that I've heard over it is making it have a bad review. And I'm just going, with everything all considered, it should have a great review. It should have Granted, it's in the same situation, it's in the same type of moving around. With it, there are new parts to it, such as being an older program, things such as that. The free Mr. Smith. The situations all go out through there. And I think the acting is very spot on. And it still encompasses everything that the old Matrix does and brings it into a new way over how could you catch these people and trap them in something to where they couldn't be productive? How can you break the machine human alliance? And who could be better than the architect? And I have to say, Mr. Harris does a great job at being a very skilled villain. And he really does come off as a friend and someone who's helping you. And just in that, everything goes forward in so many different ways. While it comes back to the same situation, the same chess pieces, they reinvent themselves in an entirely new way. And still bring in a couple or three familiar faces. Now, I'll end this right here and just say I would give this one, personally, 10 out of 10. While I'm going to look at it and say not everyone's going to understand it. It's kind of like the older Matrix in that situation. It is something that you should probably see if you saw the others, and kind of like just to give it a chance for everything. I would say it's every bit of a 9 to maybe an 8.7. Acting, all the storyline, the new concepts that are in it, it makes you think like the old Matrix did. And it really does continue on with a lot of new situations. This is Colin Dawson with Lockdown Movie Reviews. When I say go and see it, for a dinner and a movie for two single people, yeah. When I say necessarily bring the kids to it, not really. Should this be in your DVD vault at home for later if you're a sci-fi person? And this one is very sci-fi, and it is very thought-inspiring. Yes, you should see it. If you want to see something with dramatic acting and a little bit of suspense thriller in it, yes, go and see it. If you're wanting something that's an over-the-top romance that's just going to blow your socks off and be controversial in a way, maybe with psychology and doctors and where it comes in it, and you want to have something that's very psychological, go and see it. Love and romance, it does have it in there, but it's kind of stated as it, because it's got Neo and Trinity. No, I wouldn't. For those people that want to go and see it for a love romance situation, for reunions and other stuff like that, yeah, it's a good flick, and it has a very strong leading female presence that does come into her own and realize this is her universe and her time. So, with everything, I'll give it 2 thumbs up for enjoyment and everything else. Do I think it'll be in the Oscars? I'd love to say so, but I think it's too complex. Has too many action scenes and everything else to where they would say they didn't really see enough of it, even though they have very, very many standalone conversation situations. And you do forget John Wick. And this is what I was told by my mother was the best thing of an actor. You do not see John Wick in this. You do not see Johnny Mnemonic in this. You do not see A Walk in the Clouds. You see Keanu Reeves step into another iconic role of his, reprise it, and remake it, and make it his own. Just as many of the other actors in it. It's Colin Dawson with Lockdown Movie Reviews.